Tonight I want to talk primarily to young people, and you cannot serve God and materialism. Jesus said that. You've got to make up your mind. Now, I find a psychological and spiritual and moral vacuum in the United States and in Europe and America and many other parts of the world. Millions of young people have no purpose for living and no motivating challenge. And young people are restless, I find. They want a cause.
That voice? It's the American evangelist, TV preacher Billy Graham. He's in Sheffield, at Bramall Lane no less, home of Sheffield United Football Club. It's 1985. And somewhere in that crowd of 50,000 people is a barely teenage me. I've come along as a guest of my best friend Sam, whose parents, Anne and Jerry, are born-again Christians. It's a big deal for them to see him in the flesh.
May God help you to make that commitment tonight with these many people that are coming here in Yorkshire, Sheffield, England.
The Sheffield crowd adores him. As he preaches, I see a queue forming of people who run down to the stage to receive his blessing. And for a moment, I almost wonder if I will too. He's hit a sweet spot, somewhere between the showbiz and the spiritual. We're young, it's packed, and frankly, in the Sheffield summer of 85, not a lot else is going on. It all feels, well, exhilarating. In 1985, the Berlin Wall had yet to fall.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Half of Europe was Soviet-controlled. The free marketeers, Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, were joined at the hip.
No, it's me, Maggie.
And we blame materialism.
Stock market will be a car park in 5 years' time. I'll have made a fortune.
For that gigantic rip in the social fabric.
The stock market hits an all-time high.
It's a unique period.
12 million Americans are out of work.
4 decades on, the fire and brimstone has gone. Billy Graham is dead. But I'm back, thinking about those words.
She began with the healing words of St. Francis of Assisi.
The narrative that young people are lost and must come to Christ remains. Only this time, it seems, they are.
Where there is doubt, may we bring faith.
A muggy July Thursday. We're at a Christian festival, Wildfires, set in the bucolic hills of coastal Sussex. There are tents as far as the eye can see. They're expecting some 4,500 people over the next 4 days. We've come to try and put faces to the figures that suggest more and more young people are turning to religion. A YouGov survey says the number of 18 to 24-year-olds that believe in God has gone from 22% to 45% in the last 5 years. I'm naturally nervous about statistics, particularly because the figure includes those of all religions and those who may have come to the UK as immigrants with a religion already established. At the Wildfires Festival, we're just here to listen.
One of my friends goes to CrossFit, and he said all these big muscled guys are all studying the Bible.
Peter Grigg, pastor and founder, has been running Wildfires for the last 8 years.
I think we've got 500 churches coming together from all different traditions, young and old, really with a desire to pray and to think and to prepare for a spiritual awakening in this country.
A spiritual awakening in this country? What does that mean?
Well, there are signs increasingly that people are turning back towards faith, particularly if they're under the age of 25. But we need to think about that, and we need to work out how to respond to that and what that means. And there is a sense, I think people are waking up spiritually. They're realizing that some of the sort of narratives that they have been fed are not fulfilling, they're not answering the most profound questions in life.
So what do you think the young people are rejecting at this point?
A recent YouGov poll showed that if you're under 25, you're 50% less likely to be an atheist than your parents. I think there's a sense that atheism is what your parents did and it didn't really work. And therefore people are looking for alternatives and asking some really big questions.
So 10 months ago, my partner and I started a journey of starting going to church. Before that, we both grew up in a non-Christian home. My parents, I'd say, are a little bit spiritual, but wouldn't really classify themselves as anything. And just a lot of coincidences started to happen, and we started to think, okay, is there something else out there, or is it just us on this planet?
That's Monique. Nearly 1 year ago, she and her now fiancé Marcos discovered God. Was it something that changed for you? Was it an accident, or was it?
No, I think it was just some personal things, but also just being in your early 20s, I think you're pretty lost. We've got so much at our hands with technology nowadays. After time, I just started to get curious and thought, like, what is this really about?
Have you sacrificed anything? Have you given things up? Have you stopped doing things that you used to do and enjoy?
I think I've taken the small things in life a lot more. So I would say I probably go out partying a lot less, as I don't feel like I'm having to fill a void anymore. I don't feel that need to go and get drunk with my friends on the weekend.
Do you drink at all?
I do drink, yeah, but I wouldn't say I get drunk. I would never want to get drunk again, is what I would say. I'd say my daily life has changed in ways that I pray quite consistently. So there's times where I do intentionally pray, so I will, set myself 15 minutes, I'm just going to spend some time with God. I try to read scripture every day, so I try to read the Bible daily, whether that's 5 minutes, whether that's an hour. That's obviously a massive change. I'd never picked up a Bible in my life.
Has it changed your politics, how you vote, or how you think about issues like abortion or euthanasia?
Yeah, these are definitely questions that I'm absolutely still thinking about as we're only 10 months in.
Homosexuality, does that have a place in your spiritualism, your Christianity?
I think we have to be accepting of everyone, and I'd say if Jesus was here today, he would have everyone around him, and he would love to have a meal with everyone and get to know people on a personal level.
Actually, about a year ago, I found myself in quite a low, dark point in my life. I was just a bit lost, and I remember sitting down on the sofa one day, closing my eyes, and all of a sudden I had a bright white light imprinted in my eyes in the shape of Jesus.
Marcos, Monique's partner, was a high-flying athlete who was expecting to go professional.
I put all my cards sort of on going to university at Loughborough, doing sport at a high level and sort of reaching the Olympics. And through no fault of my own, I'd given it everything from the age of 10 years old, now 23. And, that journey was cut short through injury and through no fault of my own. And in that moment, I found myself lost, confused. Why did that hard work not pay off? And lost, and what do I do with my life?
Now he's big on prayer.
I was talking to a being, hello, God, and it was really strange, but what began to happen? Every single prayer that I prayed became true. It all started happening from small things. I was walking down the road and I went, right, God, if you're real, when there's that traffic light over there, when I get to it, turn it green. And I'm looking down, and it's red. As soon as I get to it, green. And I was like, that's a bit strange.
Marcus, are you nervous that if your prayers aren't answered, it will shake your faith?
You know what? No, I'm not, because if he doesn't answer that, he will answer a different one. And if he doesn't open that door, it's because he wants me to go in the other door. And I really, truly believe that. That's my answer to that.
Camilla, in her 20s, has a similar tale.
I live with a chronic condition, so that's still very much a present reality, and he just gives meaning.
A sort of navigational tool more than anything else. It sounds like it could be therapy or it could be counselling. I mean, is that how you think of it, or am I being sort of too simplistic about it?
No, I think, I've definitely done the counselling and the therapy, which are incredible, and I've reaped so many benefits out of that. Once you surrender your whole life to God, he starts to just, speak to you and guide you and be there in those moments. And so, he's everything.
In many ways, it's all textbook. I was lost, but now I'm found. A vulnerable young person needing help, figuring life out when disaster strikes. Most of those we speak to mention depression or mental illness. Most mention the perils of social media, like Joe. Just interesting from all four of you. You sound like you've kind of put the phones down, put social media down.
I think a lot of my experience from social media, it's not to say that there's not some amazing, Christian voices out there. There definitely are. But I think my experience was that it wasn't useful for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was bad for you. It was disruptive for you, was it?
It was something that I suppose was perpetuating this continual search for purpose, search for meaning, and it wasn't quite like, didn't really feel real, you know. And I think that's one thing that this younger generation are really going after is not these abstract ideas of what peace is or what hope is, but we actually want the real thing.
And even though I'm expecting a mention of the new breed of Bible-touting influencers whose sway on TikTok has been immense, no one does. At least not to us. For now, it all makes sense. A life lived online by kids born into the world of the touchscreen, trying to find the one thing that, by definition, cannot be touched. But I'm trying to work out what impact, longer term, this pull to religion will have on all of us, on the structure of society, on the way we make and frame our laws. Here's Peter again. The church, Christianity, has not always been known as a force for good. Right? Yeah. I mean, look at the scandals that have rocked the Church of England in the last year. The cover-ups, the resignations, the covering up of child abuse or sexual abuse. And so, in a way, it's a brave person who sits there saying, the church delivers good.
The evil and the covering up of evil in all expressions of the institutional church, not just the Church of England, is appalling and has to be rooted out and has to be addressed. And as a minister of the gospel, I often feel deeply ashamed about those scandals. And I'm dealing with, I'm trying to care for victims on quite a regular basis. But we can't then just take that and ignore all the good that the church has historically done and continues to do.
For example, in the US, we've seen a massive change to abortion laws in the last 3 years. Do you think that that is something that's coming here? Would you welcome that discussion here?
The statistics are interesting in terms of the sort of turn towards faith, because the same phenomenon is taking place on the other side of the pond, but less so. It's actually more pronounced in England and Wales in particular, but we're also seeing it in Dublin, for example. We're reporting the biggest number of baptisms this last Easter. Finland, the number of young men attending church has more than doubled in the last 8 years, and no one knows why. Our parliament has passed highly progressive votes on both end of life and abortion. So if we did see some moderating of that, I would welcome that, because I think we are becoming increasingly progressive and liberal. And that would be, teaching of the 1.6 billion Catholics around the world and so on and so forth. So I think, again, that's less about America. But
is there a place for young gay Christians and gay Christians who want to get married in the church here?
Well, the gospel of Jesus Christ is good news for everybody, whatever their sexual orientation, political viewpoint, or whatever. And the church here at Wildfires would seek to be welcoming spaces for everybody. Some parts of the church, as you know, are liberalising and redefining marriage around, gay marriage and so on, and others aren't. My church, we are not liberalising on that, because we're trying to work out how do you stay in tune with a global church and a historic church. Majority of Anglicans now are Africans. I mean, how do you actually, isn't it rather colonialist to say that what we think is absolutely true on any issue here in the West is the absolute truth that every other part of the world now needs to absorb? And I think there is a live conversation to be had.
Would you say we should be less open to abortion? We should be less open to end-of-life measures, less open to gay marriage? I mean, would that be a move in the right direction in your view?
I mean, my own mother just died a few days ago after 2.5 years of extreme disability after a stroke. So I've thought quite a deep and long and hard about what I think about end of life. And that's probably another conversation for another context. But as a Christian, I have strong views about the dignity of human life. and how we treat people well. And frankly, they don't always fit neatly within a party political box. And it's not just to do with, abortion and end of life. I mean, the gospel of Christ means that I tend to think that we should be fairly welcoming towards refugees. But it also makes me have a very high view of freedom. So that immediately puts me on two different sides of a political fence. So the gospel of Christ, and with all due respect, God is a bit bigger than our party politics.
I'm not for a moment sort of questioning the church. I'm just trying to work out in real terms what that means. If the country is becoming more religious, more Christian, more spiritual, are we going down a more conservative, more orthodox route on some of these issues? That's what I'm asking.
Well, socially conservative, possibly, but politically conservative.
5 years is too short a time to tell us if it's a fad or a paradigm shift. Maybe religion is bridging that gap between adolescence and fully fledged adulthood. Maybe it's a response to the growing number of young Muslims here who wear their own faith more comfortably. Or maybe Peter's right. It's a rejection of the generation before by people who think we screwed everything up. But if it is here to stay, will it fundamentally shift how we think of the biggest challenges of the decade ahead? Questions literally about life and death. And will we need to be more tolerant of politicians who bring their own faith to the heart of politics?
The Newsagents. This is a Global Player original podcast.